Okay, in business news this hour, we're going to focus on this story. Frustrating times for the hospitality industry once again. The country has moved to lockdown level 4 with leisure travel in and out of Gauteng prohibited for the next 2 weeks. Restaurants limited to selling takeaways only and bars closed. The lockdown comes as the province is battling a devastating COVID-19 third wave. In fact, Gauteng is the epicenter currently. The hospitality industry has taken a knock since the first lockdown was imposed in March last year. Now, the latest restrictions are adding to the industry's woes. To discuss how the sector will try to handle the situation and what the impact is likely to be, I'm joined now by Bart Dorrestein, Chairman of Legacy Hotels and Resorts. Bart, good afternoon. Thank you, sir, for your time. Welcome to the Midday View. I know 2 weeks might not sound like it's a long time, but in the hospitality industry, every moment is very critical because you host people in restaurants, you got casinos. Now, for the next 2 weeks, you can't have any meaningful kind of activity. How is that going to impact on you?
Well, Dan, you know, it's really devastating in an industry that's already devastated, that is really drowning. And it needs it, you know, it's struggling for its survival. It's struggling to come up with a coherent plan as to what the future holds. And with this variable corona spread different viruses upon us, we obviously can't see a clear light at the end of the tunnel when things are going to improve. So most of us have been hanging in on the slender leads that we're having. And one of them was happily that United Airlines flew into South Africa last week. Flew in with a full plane load of people, and that gave us some hope and the feeling that, you know, of better things to come, particularly for those of us who are obviously in the tourism industry as well as operating corporate hotels, which, you know, a number of the larger groups in the country operate in and is their lifeline. So, you know, as things stand, what happened last night really was a huge blow for us. And you know, it's so difficult, and we see our president standing up there and, you know, it's just such a difficult task that he has to try and balance all of these different forces driven by obviously the spread of corona, particularly in the Gauteng province. Yeah. And, you know, it's, and then to make these decisions. And, you know, and it's so easy for us all to sit and be critical of these decisions. But, you know, the tough part is that for us, I presume, in the hospitality industry, and we would appeal to government to understand that we're probably, in terms of protocols and regulations and having in place the necessary disciplines to limit corona as much as we can, it's probably better than in any other industry, you know, bar maybe the hospitals in the country. And so
it's a very difficult balance, as you say. So for the next 2 weeks, I mean, if I look at what has been decided here, you can't have conferences because conference facilities are supposed to be shut for 2 weeks, and some of your facilities would have such areas. I mean, you can't sell food. You don't have off-site kind of restaurants. I mean, as a hotel, that's not your business. You're in the business of accommodating people, but you've got employees, you've got people who service the hotels. How bad, how tough is it going to be? Just paint a picture over the next 2 weeks. What are your people, your operational guys telling you?
Well, I mean, operationally, obviously, you know, our staff in the industry has been operating on short time. You know, similar strategies varies from group to group, such a way that when we're busy, we work, and when we're not busy, we in actual fact have to cut back because that's just an absolute necessity. The industry generally, I mean, other than those possibly who have casinos, which to a certain extent, and they've obviously been closed for the next 2 weeks, have been able to weather the storm through that source of revenue. The rest of it, the industry is hemorrhaging everywhere. Every which move you look, they're hemorrhaging. And it's a matter of us, in actual fact, finding solutions that we, in actual fact, can continue, because we are a really very, very relevant part of the country's economy going forward.
Yeah, and very relevant part for tourism, because that's a contributor to the GDP very well. But finally, but why is it, as you said, you've put in place protocols and you've assured government about them, and you are best placed because you've got you know exactly how big the size of your rooms are and how many you can have, and then capacity-wise you can manage. Why is it you think government is not listening to that, and what would you appeal them to do? Because remember, the 2 weeks is just for now. It's subject to review. It might be extended.
Well, I think just to step back a second, unfortunately for us, the government has brought forward the school holidays. Now, the school holidays were, for all of us, a revenue lifeline, if we in actual fact would be able to host guests that in our country, in our resort and game lodge property. So for the industry, that was quite an important lifeline. And obviously now what's happened, school holidays have been pulled earlier, so we're losing that source of business. So, it is what it is, Unfortunately, our president has had to look at a gamut of solutions. I think for us, sitting there on the inside looking out, our biggest concern is on a daily basis is that we have 6.5 million people commuting by taxi. And it's in that area that somehow we've got to try and bring the disciplines in and limit the spread of corona. So, now
so
by taking the kids.
There'll be more job losses, I guess, I gather.
Well, in our case, we're really trying hard not to have job losses. We've structured ourselves as best as we can, but as I say, the hemorrhaging does continue. And we're really committed because the success of our business is our people. The success of our business is the ability, the enthusiasm to be able to deliver, a legacy standard quality of service. So that's what we're about. And we're just trying to grapple and find how the hell can we get through this morass. And these 2 weeks, it's like starting a business, playing a rugby game, being halfway through the game, then going home, and then saying, come back in 2 weeks' time to finish the game. You must understand that when you get back onto the field of play,
it's going to be a tough time.
Just not an ability, ability to continue.
Sorry, I lost a little bit there, but I thought it was cutting off. Thank you very much. We got the message. Tough times indeed. You're hemorrhaging. That's Bart Dorrestein. He's a chairman of Legacy Hotels and Resorts, one of the hospitality groups in this country that's been affected, of course, by level 4 lockdown regulations that have been put in place by the president since yesterday, since this morning, for the next 2 weeks.